The
Because live here.
Live!
Oh,
we have made it!
We're on. Small miracle for, well, half a miracle.
Half a miracle.
We're waiting for the other half.
We are only half the group, but we are here. And I'm Heidi Hornlein, and
I'm Mark Davenport.
And we are the Wisdom Factory. I mean, we are not the Wisdom Factory, but we are doing the shows. And at the moment, we are in between the seasons. We have just finished our first season, and it was 16?
16, yes.
16 broadcasts.
Yes. If we were in America, we would say we're beginning the summer reruns.
It's not yet summer, so.
No, and it's not a rerun.
And it's not a rerun. So we thought, in the meantime, just to keep on the flow, to invite people like you and me to chat about topics, wisdom topics, and especially about integral. And we have said so often the word integral, and sometimes we have explained something, and you know, I think somebody of you might be curious what it is.
Curious, yes. Some may know from the invitation group,
yeah.
But some may not.
Yeah, and we had invited 4 people, and happily one has made it to come into our live transmission, and this is Bettina. Hello, Bettina from Denmark.
Hello.
Well, this puts a really heavy load on you, Bettina, really. But
no problem. We made it. That's the most important.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. It was a little bit strange that we couldn't come in. We have done all the practices before, which we have learned to do. And
the rehearsal went fine.
Yep. Rehearsal went fine with all 3 people, and you are the only one who has made it. I hope Lawrence is in the comment stream just now and will engage from there.
Yeah.
So our topic today is superhuman potential. What is it, and how can we realize it? I mean, these are big questions, a little bit too big, I guess, for one session.
We should say that Bettina and our other 2 guests are all graduates of the fall 2014 Ken Wilber SuperHuman Operating System group, and we've all been, I'm sure, changed, affected by that experience, and it might be interesting to know how Bettina, who has a long history of various kinds of self-improvement groups and a long history of meditation, how is this experience with Superhuman Operating System becoming sort of integrated?
Yeah, this is a quite a bit a longer question. I would begin first.
Okay.
First things first. So how come that you were interested in doing this course, and how come that you have decided to do it? I think this is earlier, no?
Okay.
Well, thanks for both the questions. I'll start with Heidi's then.
Okay.
Well, I think I wanted to. I think I needed to go back to grade 1 to sort of go through everything in a structured way, and I felt that a course over 10 weeks was a good way of exploring the philosophy structured. And then I think the most important part was to meet other people such as yourselves to discuss it with. So the fact that we made the Skype call group already, I think the 2nd week or something, and we actually still meet every week and discuss things like this has helped me very much. So this was my hope before starting, that I would meet some people to discuss these concepts with. What does it mean being integral, and Ken Wilber's integral philosophy, and the 5 elements in Oracle and all that? What is it? What is it, and how do we use it in every day? And I really feel that the course has rebooted me and spurred me on.
But were you? I mean, how come that you were at all interested in integral? So that you were attracted by that?
Yeah. I took a sort of integral life coach education from 2007 to 2009 here in Denmark. And at that point, they didn't speak a lot about openly about Ken Wilber, the philosophy, but it was sort of integrated in all the things we learned, for example, the shadow work and all that. And I kept hearing this name, Ken Wilber, in the back of my mind from people, but I was like, it wasn't attracting me. It sounded very heady, very mental, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But I also felt, okay, this might be a shadow of mine. So I also sort of parked it and said, okay, at some point I need to look into this more. And then that point came in the summer of 2013 when I bought and read Integral Life Practice by Terry Patton and Ken Wilber and 2 other people. And I was just immediately, yes, of course, it all makes sense. And yeah, and then it just took off from there, I think.
Was that Integral Life Practice with, you mentioned Terry Patton and Ken Wilber, and was it Diane Hamilton and Jeff Saltzman, by chance? Was that the group?
It's not a group, it's a book.
A book?
It's a book.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah, it was a book. Yeah, and it's a very practical and very hands-on and with exercises, and I really like these kinds of books because to be honest, I find some of Ken Wilber's book, I actually feel that some of my prejudices have been confirmed, that they are quite mental and heady, and it's taken me some time to wrap my head around it. But now that I'm more on the other side, I also see the value of learning sort of, it's like learning a new language. And we need a new language in order to speak about these things across all cultures, all businesses, all kinds of life parts, I think. So it's been worth it, but I must admit that I was kicking and screaming in the beginning. It was very reluctant.
I'm comparing that with the way I got interested in Integral. I had just moved to Florida, and after working on my new house for a couple months, I really realized, oh, this is what I've been waiting for, you know? I'd gotten very good at waiting to retire, waiting to have all this free time, waiting. I really hadn't learned how to do and be, just actually be. And so I went through a couple gurus, including Andrew Cohen, and it led me to Don Beck, and then finally to Ken Wilber. And I got the only book of his that they had in the local library, History of Everything, and I just couldn't put it down immediately. This is what I was waiting for. So I dove into it with great enthusiasm. And I've been really just in love with the man ever since. So despite his foibles, despite his wordiness, despite his continuing to climb up the spiral at every opportunity, and explain each level in detail on every question, but combined with his great heart and his wonderful, humorous personality, hey, I'm certainly willing to overlook. Oh, that's right. He's human too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm here corresponding with Monica and Lawrence, who are at least in the comment stream somewhere. Yeah, Google Plus a little bit is a learning curve. We have done our rehearsal, but still it doesn't seem to be intuitive. After a while it is. So I have a new, let's say, computer.
Yes.
Too, which I try out today. So it's a really prima of everything.
The premiere.
So I would like to talk about how I got to know Ken Wilber. I was here in Italy doing a course in neurolinguistic programmation, and the guy there said, "Oh, there's a fabulous book. You must read this." One was No Boundaries, but the most, which moved me really a lot was Grace and Grit. It was in Italian. It was translated, one of the few books which are translated in Italian. And I was so touched by this story when he met his wife, and there was really connection from the first moment. And after 10 days, she got the notice that she was ill of cancer. And then the journey, the 5 years until she died. This was a really, really great book, and there you can see the humanness of this person. It's not only theory. And as far as I know, after the death, it took him 4 or 5 years to write again. And since then, he really wrote a lot, many books. And for me, the most important book was, where I really wanted to come home and read, was Up from Eden, where he explained how humans developed. And when it came to the egocentric time, about 6,000 years ago, when the golden, how did he call it? The golden masculine or something. I've forgotten because I read it in Italian or in German or something, so the English word sometimes I don't know. Anyway, the beginning of the rise of the masculine energy in the world, when we in Spiral Dynamics would say the beginning of red. And for me, the most important thing was when he pointed out that the fact that women sort of went under the man was not because men have oppressed them, but that it was a sort of a common agreement to do that. And one very big confusion or error has been that before the divinity was feminine. And when they changed into the new era, in the new level of development, then the divinity became more masculine, ever more masculine. And as we know, transformation happens by first rejecting the old and then integrating it. So even women have rejected the feminine archetype, and I wouldn't say archetype, but the feminine deities, because they were outdated completely. And the thing what happened, that they have confused feminine god figures with the earthly woman. And so everything which was woman was rejected. And as we know, what has happened, that we didn't fully integrate the previous stage. So at this point,
by we you mean men and women.
We humans.
Yes, humans.
Didn't integrate well their previous states in development, and so the women somehow remained there, and by their own contribution. And this was for me eye-opening, because he said it is not possible that half of the population can oppress the other half. And if they can, that would mean that women are sheep and they are a little bit, but they are not. So there must be some other...
If we can oppress you women, then you women must be inferior. Yes.
Yeah, we must.
So this was for me the very big opening, and since then I read almost every book. Some, they were too much for me, like Eros, Cosmos, Logos. I just couldn't read that one, but I read the more, how can you say, more humanized book, which is the brief history of everything,
yes,
but you have read. It was easier to read. But for me, I was always completely against philosophy because I never understood anything. But when I read Ken Wilber, I thought, oh, something I do understand. And so it is not as difficult as Kant and all this other stuff. So
no.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I mean, I guess I'm very practical. I always want to know how can we use it. That's what drives me, and that's also what has driven me to get over the hurdle of understanding the integral language, because actually I feel that that's one of the problems with it, that it is quite academic, and I felt it was a barrier that shut me out. And I sort of had to get over that resistance in order to say, okay, then I'll just have to get back to school and learn it. And I need to understand my own motivation in order to do that. And my motivation has definitely been, okay, I can see that there's a bigger potential here. There's a bigger potential for me personally, but there's also definitely a bigger potential to unfold in humanity. And that's what has sort of driven me to put on, draw up the sleeves and get reading and get doing all this work. And I must admit that I would really like to spread out the word further, but trying to use simpler language, because I feel that a lot of people would embrace this. You don't have to make it complicated. So I hope that that's also some of the things that we can accomplish as an integral community to make it everyday, because it is everyday. It is about how we interact with each other, and that's what's been inspiring for me. And as you said, I have been meditating daily for over a decade. I have been doing yoga. I have been very interested in self-exploration and voluntary work and all that. And I really feel that the integral philosophy has given me a language to understand both myself, but also the world we are in a I guess it's sort of confirmed my intuitive understanding, but it's put on words. So now I can actually go out and discuss it with people in a way I couldn't do before. And I feel that's really the power or the force of this philosophy.
Yeah, so many people I have met say exactly the same thing. I had this sort of knowing and something, and finally now, I know there's somebody who has given words to what I have sort of felt somewhere.
Yeah. That is true, and it's also a problem because Ken has had to invent vocabulary to describe events which we haven't had words for. You know?
But it's interesting. For example, I have been practicing both meditation from Tibetan Buddhism, which is very much focused on third person and first person perspective. As a first person to recognize your own Buddhahood and to be the witness, and the third person to sort of unite myself with all of the web of life, sort of emptiness would be the Buddhist word for it. But I didn't feel that the second person was very much, you have it with, if you have a teacher, if you have a guru, and actually you're supposed to have that, but I as I'm not a Buddhist, I never felt that I could sort of surrender to a guru, so I didn't sort of have the second person. So I had to go to another meditation center called Brahma Kumaris, where they very much favor the second person relationship. And I guess I felt for all these years that, oh, what's wrong with me? Am I being arrogant that I can't sort of pick one over the other? And it was a big relief to understand that there was actually a bigger reason for this, that intuitively I knew which sides I needed to evolve in myself, and I went where I could get that support, but I didn't have the vocabulary to understand why I did it. I just followed my inner compass. But now I feel that I've sort of been confirmed that the things I did intuitively was actually supported by the framework of integral philosophy, and of course that's a great feeling.
I would like to add that integral philosophy is not just something somebody has invented. it is a description of the what can I say, of the world, of what is.
Yeah.
Only it is ordered in a certain way that you see the connections of all the different things. Before it seemed that all events happen something like this, blah, blah, blah. And you said, oh, how can that be? This is, and this is, and this is true, and this is true too, and this is true too. So you thought you go mad because whoever told you something, and you said, yeah, it's right, you know, and then the next person told you more or less the opposite, and it's like, yeah, he's right. So we finally know to make a distinction between these truths, which are true, but partial. So this is one of
that wilderness of modern and postmodernism, you know, which just destroys any sense of order, any sense of solidity, any sense of, okay, that's how it works. And then coming into integral, there's a whole new meta-order that includes all of those earlier times and earlier belief systems. And at first you feel really smug. And oh my goodness, how could all those people be so short-sighted and blah, blah, blah. And then you realize that that's absolutely necessary to get to the integral point. There's no shortcuts. You can't go from the Garden of Eden to integral.
And that's what I like about it, that it really embraces inclusiveness, that it's about including. And I think a lot of us got stuck on the way when we didn't want to include something. And I think we all have it in minor or bigger things, you know, along the way, that there's something we try to reject because it's not comfortable or it's against our early belief system or something. And I think that's also what I really like about this philosophy, that I get a language to understand that, okay, probably I have some shadows here, and I need to sort of double check with all my growth layers and all my intelligences and all my, you know, quadrants and so on, to check where might I be blocked. And I think that's it appeals to the structured side of me, that I sort of have a check system that I can go in and say, okay, how am I doing on the power level? How am I doing on the mythic level, and so on.
Yeah.
You were already using terms, and I think it is like everywhere, when you really want to go into something, you have to learn a certain vocabulary. It's not only here. It's in mathematics. It's in music. It's really everywhere. Without the vocabulary, you don't go anywhere. You want to say something?
Yes, finally, please. Okay. No, I'm just wondering if our other participants, Lawrence and Monica, have they asked any questions? Are they able to hear what we're doing?
They are able. At least Monica is in the audience, and she is here, and she didn't say anything of content, but I would say we try it out again for next week. We will have them included, and we'll really talk about the superhuman operating system, superhuman potentials, which were the object of this. Subject or object of the course?
Those subject-object things get really complicated.
Yeah, really complicated. Yeah. So we will do that again, and you will have the chance to talk about your experience with this course. And then I thought in the future to talk about, you know, more or less what the sequences are. We will talk about the lines and about the levels and about the quadrants, and so people slowly might get an idea what it is about.
Is this some kind of educational program?
No, yes. This is for us to be able to learn to express it, to give it, and for people to try to understand it, you know. Because I remember it took me a long time until I was able to explain to a person who had nothing to do with integral what that is. In 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It's not easy. And so I think our conversations help us to find words which hopefully are understandable. And what you said before, that your goal is to bring it down into an understandable language, I think that's exactly what we want to do here with the Wisdom Factory, you know, to break it down into an understandable language. I think people still have to stretch their mind, and there are people who do want to do it, who are ready to do it, and others just not interested.
Yep.
But that's
of course, that's fine. I mean, but I think if you are interested in solving what Ken calls the wicked problems of this world, I think you really have to at least glance at this in order to understand why the other people don't see the world like you do. Because I think it's often that we are sitting here looking from our own perspective, and we are really confused why other people are doing something completely opposite to our beliefs, and it's like, oh, they should just understand the world the way I see it, and then everything would be fine. And of course that's not true, but it feels true, and I think a lot of people do understand that. But I think for me to understand the thing with the development levels, how people evolve, both as children, but might get stuck somewhere, and to get all this language, I think it's so much easier to understand why people act the way they do, and especially if you look at nations, because then you are very much influenced by the culture you're in. You might personally be able to stretch yourself above, but when you are in a certain culture, you are influenced by the other people. So, for example, if you're in a culture that are very, believe in rigid systems and what we call mythic, and sort of believe in the Bible, for example, that it's literally true that Moses parted the sea and all that, then it's very difficult to understand when you are at a rational level, and sort of to understanding these. This framework, at least it has helped me a lot, and also to understand that I need to rephrase my vocabulary if I speak with people like that. I spoke with my hairdresser actually about this, and she's not particularly religious or anything, but she's very open, and she's very interested in sustainability. So I talked to her about how the bigger religions were founded 2,000 or more years ago, where the culture was different, and it's influenced them so much, and they haven't sort of kept up. So the core truths are the same, but the way it's presented feels old-fashioned for a lot of people, and that's actually getting us stuck. And for example, in Denmark, we don't understand why that's a problem, because most people, they are not very interested in going to church or anything, but we just have to understand that 6 billion people on this planet are devoted to some kind of religion, and most of those are on a level, development level, that was founded 2,000 years ago. And I actually think it has a much bigger influence than we are aware of. I mean, at least I wasn't aware of how much it's influencing us. And then of course, then there's the 1 billion people who don't, who say they don't believe in any belief systems, but then they believe in something else, maybe science or something. And we all need to communicate.
They believe in money, for instance.
Maybe. I believe in money.
I believe in me. But there's only one of, not a billion.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a very interesting thing when you really dive into integral theory, how you can understand it. And in our second season, we will invite people to talk exactly about this. Today we have had the confirmation of Elsa Malouf, who is working with this tools in the Middle East to create peace, you know. And then we will have Jeff Salzman talking about politics and how you can understand that, because especially in politics, people talk and how stupid are they, blah blah blah, and they are all the time, and they don't see the truth which everybody can offer. They just dismiss everything which is not there. But when you understand at what level they are, that's what it is. So to create peace, we have to.
Oh,
Nice.
and this is not Greenpeace. This is not postmodern peace. We're talking about an integral peace, which can really include some ruthlessness, some cunning, some really, almost Machiavellian actions.
Don't.
You have to explore that further, Mark. That sounds awful.
It's what we all want to do, though, isn't it?
No, but an example, for instance, no? When you are in green, you think your children, when you are in education, they are allowed to do everything, and you don't have to set them rules because you maybe in your school have suffered the rules and how horrible it is. Mm-hmm. And what you do by allowing them everything what they want, especially in an age where they cannot decide yet because they have not yet reached the possibility from their brain structure, Yeah. And for the psychological development, when you ask them when they are 4, do you want to go in holidays to Italy or to Russia? What do they know, So when you overload children with decisions and with choices, you are doing a sort of a crime because you don't give them the structure. First, children need to have a structure, and then that's their work to break out of the structure. But first, they need to have it. And in green, that we are now using these levels in the colors of spiral dynamics, there is this idea everybody can do what they want, and sort of. And what he said, when you come into integral, you understand that, and you would do the education of a child quite rigorously, but loving.
Without blowing them up, actually.
Without blowing them up. Yeah. Lovingly, and knowing that you are not a bad person when you set boundaries, but that these boundaries are needed, and you are in a role. Mm-hmm. You have the role of an educator, and this is, in a certain age, this is what you need to do for the benefit of the child, because otherwise it might even become a psychopath if they don't know where the boundaries are. So you understand that there is a division between role and your person.
Exactly.
And you can do that.
Behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And you not even can set rules, but you have to set rules.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this you see only in integral. You don't see it before. So
certainly not agree. No.
That's what he meant when he said these horrible words.
Ruthless, cunning, yeah.
Yeah.
Smart,
I agree.
And really discerning, and decisive. And absolutely regretting any damage or harm that you might have to do in order to make that happen. But
we will have more occasion to talk about these things, because they are very, very important to get an idea what you feel like and what you do when you have reached the integral level.
Yeah.
And where to go to, where we need to go to. And it's really, when you are there, at least in your good days, not always. I sometimes shout on him too, although I know it.
I never shout at her. It doesn't.
I don't believe that.
Sometimes I'm not integral at all, but so overall, sort of.
Oh, but even when we're not integral, we are, because being integral includes being like that.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're the witness, and you, at least, if we can stop and say, oh, now I'm really furious at you, and now I'm shouting at you. Yeah, at least we have the conscious.
We have developed this witness thing, that we are not caught completely into the moment. Also, living in the moment is so popular. This is good, but not being sort of the victim of the moment.
The victim of the moment.
Not the victim, but the witness.
Yes.
Exactly like this.
Yeah.
I just heard Ken talk today on the new Beyond Seeking program. I don't know if you heard about it. And he gave an example I haven't heard about before. He said, diving into the human potential, why wouldn't you want to do that? It's like you suddenly given access to a bank account with $1 million. Would you turn your back on that? Think about all the good you could do. So of course you wouldn't. And I think it's the same with this, that this is like a whole new world is opening up, but at the same time we intuitively recognize it. So we actually already knew that this potential was there, but now we get to explore it in a structured way, and there might be areas we weren't so aware of. And I think that's, for me, it's really the most important part of all this process, to teach people what their potential is. Because you cannot evolve it if you don't know that it's there. If you don't know you have like 10 or 20 intelligences and you have all these other possibilities, you might think that you don't have it, and you just unconsciously limit yourself. And I think it's so sad, because there's so much potential to be released. And if we sort of release that, I mean, all those wicked problems of the world, I'm pretty sure that we can deal with them. I went to see the Dalai Lama. He came to Copenhagen a couple of weeks ago, and he said he was convinced that we could change the world within this century. We just had to start now, and it's a positive thought that maybe in our lifetime or just soon after, we can really make a change.
And I want to add to that, we are starting now, and where we need to start is with ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really with ourselves, because when we create, I always use peace as the word, when we create peace in ourselves, real peace, not trying to go away from things, but when we are able to meet challenges, for instance, in a good way, and go out of it and learn out of it, when we create peace inside ourselves, then we can create peace in the families, or let's say here,
Me too.
With you, and it doesn't mean that we don't shout, but you come back into peace always, and not come to this moment, and then we can create peace in our communities, and then in our countries, and then in the world. And it begins always with ourselves. And this is the motivation why I personally do all that, because I have learned, I think I told you already, a modality with which really to go into the inner parts and create peace between the inner parts, create connection between the parts which otherwise hinder you or boycott you, or how do you say, draw you back,
sabotage
you. Yeah. And that was the beginning. I said, I want to teach people. This is so obvious that nobody sees it,
Yeah.
And now we are here, and who knows where we are going, So I'm completely inspired, and I'm happy that he is coming with me.
Yeah, I'm going along. Yep.
Sometimes it's a little bit, but he's inspired too.
Yeah.
I know that. I know that. Only the work.
Oh gosh,
who is doing the work?
That's one of the intelligences, willpower.
We had a little discussion about that recently.
We did. Yeah.
We will have it another time again, and publicly, and hopefully with the people we want to have in, and with the other people who might show up.
Is there anything we might say to Lawrence and Monica here? I haven't been reading what they've been writing.
Lawrence wrote, integral peace still requires the cooperation of all concerned. Yes and no. It must not be all. It's,
some are not going to be involved.
As we know that the energetic field is influencing each other, when the power of, let's say, positive, it sounds so strange, is strong enough, then it will just drag in the others. That's my belief.
There's a tipping point.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they say, whether they think it's 10% but there's a certain tipping point, and then the rest of the crowd will be pulled along. So
it has always been. Has always been.
I think Wilber has pointed out, that the Renaissance was the work of about 200 individuals, and the rest just went along, not aware of what was happening. But the world changed.
And it will again.
So never give up.
Pardon?
Never give up.
No, and this is, why we find each other, why we connect each other, and even with the people, even also is the right word, with the people who are watching us. we need encouragement. If we are, as long as we are alone, lonely wolves, we might give up. But when we are each other, supporting each other, we won't give up. And that's what the world needs. The world is calling us.
We need to support each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So
and Google needs to support us with this Hangout.
I don't think exactly. I don't know what has happened today. We will figure that out. Okay.
We did our best. We really did everything, and it still didn't work. So, yeah.
There we go.
Okay. But
So,
you know, our experience, I'm learning this for a year now. And now I'm sort of knowing what things can happen and what is the reason. Often the reason is missing bandwidth, missing upload speed. So you cannot go in for certain reasons. And this is not always Google. You know, it's also the other technological stuff. Many of the things which happen to us is definitely because we didn't have enough upload speed.
Okay.
So, you know, we will figure that out in one way or another.
Yep.
And yeah, give you the possibility to say a last word.
Well, it's been great to be invited.
Superhuman potential we postpone for the next time, okay?
I'm not sure I got that.
I said to the listeners that the superhuman potential discussion we will postpone a little bit to the next time. It is a chat. We say it's a chat. It's not a real program, you know, so
No.
It ended up differently. Go on.
I think it's so important to hook up with each other and talk about these things. So I'm happy to be invited. And yeah, it's been great. So let's stay in touch.
okay.
You're doing pioneer work.
Well, it was unfortunate that we couldn't get going the way we had planned, but what we've done is made the very best of the time anyway, with a great chat, interaction, chance to go a little more deeply into some things, and to laugh a little, and just connect on a very human level. So this was good, and it'll be better next time.
It'll be better next time, and maybe we go a little bit more into the content then.
Into content, exactly.
Okay.
All right.
So thank you very much. And
bye-bye,
everybody
Lawrence
who has
and
watched
Monica
us,
and
Paula,
everybody
Monica, Titze, and Misty was here, and Lawrence for sure.
Yeah.
Who else is there? Whoop.
Oh, the Russian fellow. I can't think his
Mikhail
name.
is
Mikhail,
here.
yes.
And there are other people who said they would be here, so maybe they see it also in the replay. Thank you for watching, and I hope we can inspire you a little bit that the dry philosophy is not so dry. Okay, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.